So here we are today at St Albans Cathedral, and we're here to meet Ben Hammott, who is the author of numerous books on the subject matter of the Holy Grail, and he recently discovered some incredible treasures that came from Judea 2,000 years ago, one of which seems to be the body of Mary Magdalene along with some of her relics, including the alabaster jar. So we're here today to meet with him, and we're very excited. Which one was this of all the different
This
things
was
that you
one
found?
near to the Magdalene Cave, what they call the Magdalene Cave, which is, when you're at Rennes Le Chateau, you'll go in there soon. Have you been there before?
No.
If you go in the Tour Magdala and you go up a spiral staircase and you'll see two windows, the top one's the better view. But if you look out, and at 22 degrees, which is her feast day, is the Magdalene Cave, and that's where this was found.
That's the cave where the body is?
No,
that's somewhere else.
No, you can't see Rennes Le Chateau from.
Okay, so why do they call it Magdalene Cave?
Because it's actually it's called the burial place of Mary Magdalene, but I think it wasn't called that originally. It was called the Grail de Fournet, I think, or something like that. And it was changed 100, 200 years ago, or whatever.
You think that he buried her there originally?
No, I don't know, but there is a grave sort of shape, and nobody digs it. People dig in the cave, but they don't touch this grave. Which is quite unusual even for the French and that you know, they haven't got much respect for anything. But they don't even dig it.
So you found this there?
Yeah.
I've watched the documentary probably about 20 times.
Well, the bloodline, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like every time I see it, I get something new out of it. And I mean, I must say, like the last few times that I watched it, every time you got to the point where you see her body there with the shroud, you know, I just start chills and the crying, and I've just like been having all these really weird dreams about trying to get her body out of there and trying to find. I can imagine. I mean,
but
that's the biggest treasure in
you've got
hands.
it's quite a very short segment in the film.
Yeah.
In reality, it's long. You know, it's over an hour long. You know, I was doing all that sort of stuff. But obviously, it's too much for a film, and it's probably a bit boring.
Where is all that?
I've got it. I show it at my tours. I show about 30 minutes of it.
Okay.
So there's a lot of it where
That's
you're just moving.
This
This is just the filming of the body.
Oh, okay. Wow.
In the tomb with the cam.
Wow. My goodness. Oh my
Nice to cut.
goodness me.
You can hold it.
Look at that. 2,000 years old.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is like so. This is probably one of the most precious artifacts that anybody has ever found in history. This is just. This should be just front page news.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I
can't believe that the Bloodline film didn't do better.
I totally agree with you. Well, you know, it's alternative. Is this? This is not the alabaster jar. This is something else.
No, that's the pottery jar.
It's beautiful. Look at the work on it.
It's simple, but it's great, isn't it?
It's
you know,
beautiful.
it's very good.
Oh my goodness.
Just do it in case they're wrong.
Look at that.
This is a little alabaster one, which would have contained expensive perfume.
Right.
And what they would have done, they normally break it. And, you know, like Jesus was anointed, she broke the jar, and it went over his hair or his feet. So we think this might, that might have been used for his feet, and this might have been used when he did his hair. You know, we don't know, it's just speculation.
Well, the wedding would have been with this.
Yeah, and then it was later used by the Priest Berenger before Sauniere arrived on the scene to hide a small parchment. This is what was found in the church, we believe. It was in a secret compartment of a post, a wooden post, that held up the pulpit.
So now you've found the place, and nobody else but you knows where the place is.
Well, there's a couple other people know, just in case I ever get knocked over by a car or.
I was going to say I'll suddenly have a stroke, right?
Yeah.
God forbid.
Hello there. Hello, Mum. And this was the parchment, which you saw in the film.
Yep.
This is the bit of parchment, it's fallen to bits.
So this is Sauniere's writing?
Bigot, this would be Bigot before Sauniere. And this is what we believe Sauniere may have found, which started him on his...
And you've decoded all of this? What language is this in? It's Coptic or...?
Latin, no.
It's in Latin.
Yeah, it's all
so
Latin.
So Mary Magdalene here, the MM.
Yeah.
and the chalice cup.
I think this is
the
an old
fish.
drawing of the church before Sonia arrived, because he hasn't got his bits and pieces on it.
And of course the upside down triangle it represents the goddess.
Yeah.
And the fish, the symbol for the fish.
Yeah, it's got
and
Alpha and Omega.
What is Alpha and Omega? That's what that is. And it says, this means royal crypt.
Yeah.
Is that what that says there?
Royal crypts, but we don't know what royal would be buried there. Unless it's obviously, yeah.
So you have the location, and you've got 2 people who are protecting that information just in case.
Yeah.
And you have no way in or out of there.
No, it's all rock, and some of it is like granite. We've tried chipping, you know, just with small hand tools and that.
Right.
But it's just no good. You need heavy equipment, because you start using power tools up there, and it just echoes, you know, over the valley and all that.
You don't want to draw attention to yourself. So you know, one thing that happened to me was when I emailed you, I was waiting for a response, and then when you emailed me back and said that you would see me, I had this dream that I was there, and that you were showing me where her body was, and I found that, like, we walked around this. I haven't been there, so I don't even know if this is possible, but I found that over on this side over here of the hill, that that if you were to drill here, that you would suddenly find these catacombs of underground places that would lead you to. And so we were going through, and then we saw the little stones, and we were going to go get her out. And so I just thought that was pretty amazing. And I don't know.
Yeah, there's a 50% chance that the blocked up doorway that you see leads into a series of catacombs, tunnels, and then there's like a temple area in the middle, and this is just one of the rooms.
I'm sure of that.
You know, that's what
that's what the Templars and the Cathars did. They rebuilt the Temple of Solomon in that area with all the underground tunnels, right? It makes the most amount of sense. Maybe I was thinking maybe you could kind of approach it from a different angle.
We've walked all around.
You have.
I mean, when you said you'll see what the landscape's like. You make a hole or something, or bury something one year. You go back 6 months later and that's all overgrown, and you won't even know. And if they've covered the entrance with a rock, put some earth on it, you've got bushes and trees growing through it, you know, unless you actually know. Which is why we've invested in a GPR now.
Oh, so that's where you can see, it's like a
it goes under camera. It sends signals underneath the ground, so you can see and then that's great. So that we can tell if there's a cavity and that there. So.
Good. So when are you gonna do that this summer?
Yeah, I'm out there in July.
Okay.
To do a bit more.
And the French government, yes.
I don't think they're going to give us permission to tell the truth.
Really?
No. They're trying to find out where it is, and then they're going to go in.
But you can't tell them, right?
But so they won't give us any. What the hold up is at the moment, we want some sort of agreement that. Because we have to pay for the excavation, whoever's doing it, they don't pay for anything, they're just in charge of it all.
Right, they give you permission.
So we'll build the road up there, we'll get all the heavy equipment up there, we'll dig through the rock, we get to the entrance and they say, right, now you're out, our archaeologists are taking over.
No, you can't do that.
But and we want to know what's going to happen to the stuff inside.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know? And
who's going to get it, the Vatican?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And we just found out that there's a case that we may have to pay for the preservation as well, because in Britain that's the sort of thing, if no one buys it, you have to pay for the preservation, which could run into the hundreds of thousands.
Right.
So...
I mean, could you not, I mean, that's what I was saying, surely there must be museums that want this.
Yeah, but the French, if it's anything important, they're not going to let it go out of French soil.
But what if we opened up a museum right there, dedicated to what
I think if it's what we think it is, it would disappear, just disappear, and say no, it was buried, it was no one important, you know.
Because there's no way of proving it's her.
No, because there isn't. No.
Okay, the red hair and it's a woman from that region and blah blah. But, you know,
there could be documents.
DNA evidence, possibly.
Documents. I think they would just hide everything.
I mean, I know I have a friend who's she's a French bloodline descendant from both father and mother, Bourbon's side, and I can't remember the other side of the family, but they're both known bloodline descendants of Magdalene. So, you know, I'm thinking, well, if you can get a DNA sample, and then you get DNA samples of some of the people, like the Sinclair families and people that know their bloodline, you might be able to somehow, that could tie in.
Yeah, if we can get...
But then, of course, they could just say it could just be a descendant, you know, not necessarily Magdalene.
Yeah, but we could all be related to the person called Jesus and Mary Magdalene.
No doubt.
Because, you know, you have children, like your children have children, their children have children, and before we know it,
they
know,
travel.
Yeah,
they travelled.
Yeah, exactly. Even more so now today.
Oh, yeah.
It's harder to travel then, but they still did it.
Yeah, this is incredible. Thank you so much for bringing these for us to see. And this box is so beautiful.
I love the box,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Just lovely. Have you had this?
Yeah, it's all been dated and everything.
And this is 2,000 years old?
No, this is just dates to the time of Sonia.
Soniere's time.
Yeah.
So this might have been Soniere's box, in fact.
We think he might have used it to put these bits and pieces in and bury them.
So, you know, Sauniere, having the secret, he builds the architecture with the secrets encoded for somebody in the future like yourself to decode and go find this treasure that otherwise would have been lost.
Yeah, you've got to think, in his time the Inquisition was still up and running. I mean, I know it's still about now under a different name, but there's no way he could come out and say that he's found the body of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. He would just disappear, I mean, there's even rumours now that he was killed,
I'm
you
sure
know.
He was. And his, of course, Marie, right? Wasn't that her name?
Marie Dernanard, yeah, she lived on and she knew the secret, but
she had a stroke before she got to tell everybody.
Yeah, that's it. How unfortunate was that,
no
you know?
Kidding. Yeah, isn't that strange how that happens? Goodness me. I just finished reading a very interesting book. I would have brought it with me, but it's about this big, and I left it at home in the States, but it's a very rare book called Jesus, Heaven on Earth. And it was written by a Muslim man who has been living in Kashmir studying the life of Jesus in India. And there's a place called Srinagar in Kashmir, which is where my father's from. And they have a tomb there of Jesus.
Yeah, and so the rumour is that he went there, isn't there? There's a legend that he went to India.
Well, actually,
first,
in Srinagar, there are people who, you know, in India, they worship like God and Goddess together, side by side. So they have, you know, Radha and Krishna, Shiva and Parvati. So they have all the expansions of God and Goddess in posters. And in Kashmir, they have Jesus and Mary Magdalene as a couple being worshipped. There are Christians up there who are worshipping. And there's a lot of evidence that Thomas was there with Jesus. Now, let me ask you that. That's something I want to ask you. So, in Sauniere's building, there's the picture of the two brothers, right? You even say brothers ?
Yeah.
Did Jesus have a twin?
I think he must have. I think he
So
did.
do I.
You know.
So do I. Thomas was his twin, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he did. You know.
Too.
They can't mention another brother because she was a virgin birth for one. They can't get away with two, you know.
5 of them, right? 5 siblings. How do you explain that? I mean, there's James, there's Judah, there's Thomas.
I mean, you've got to think, even now, I mean, if you have a baby out of wedlock, you're pregnant out of wedlock over that, you could be stoned or whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
sure.
So the same sort of thing might have gone there, you know. She got pregnant. And she said, oh no, it's a divine, you know, it's a virgin birth, you know, it was a divine, and everyone believed it, you know, and that was her way out, you know, and then she married with Joseph, and, you know, and that's how it all started. You know, make up that lie or die, you know.
Well, you know, I think that the whole virgin birth thing kind of all came about from
the Egyptians and all that.
It happened later because they were trying to infiltrate the Jesus phenomena with the phenomena of the pagans' belief, their belief system.
Everything,
and because they believed in the goddess that had the virgin birth, they decided to take the story of Mary and superimpose it, second one.
Do you want to hold that for a little while?
Hey, you be careful with that, you think?
Can I hold?
Be careful. That might be Jesus' cup. That was something.
They could have sipped out of that.
Yeah, maybe at their wedding. Maybe if I would have married him, I would have kept the cup that we got married with.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, even now we keep little keepsakes, don't we?
Yeah,
you know?
sure, absolutely.
We're still doing it, you know.
So anyway, then apparently Mary fled because she was pregnant with the child, and she feared that Herod would come after her.
Yeah, well, all the disciples were being persecuted, you know.
And so then, her father, who was the head of the temple at the time, Mary's father, quickly arranged for her to go into a little village and disappear.
Yeah.
Right? Just like Jesus and the family did after the crucifixion. They disappeared.
Yeah,
they went incognito. They changed their names, they changed their dress, even their skin colour changed, everything, to survive, you know. So Mother Mary did the same thing, and she was married off to a local villager named Joseph, and there's the story. Had nothing to do with virgin anything, you know.
It's all been twisted for the
propaganda.
Yeah, and the way I think they was trying to get as many people on board as they can and to control the masses, which is the whole point. So they picked all these bit of story here, bit of story, put it all together, and then you've got the Bible. You know, this is it. This is great. This will bring everybody on board. You know, we don't want trouble. We just want to appease everybody. And
So what's the next step for you?
Well, we're still trying to find a way in, and we've got the GPR now, so we're going to do some more GPR when we go out there, and hopefully follow the tunnel and find out where it leads to, and hopefully it will lead to an open.
There's so much resistance to Mary Magdalene there, and yet it's her country. She died there. There's all this history there, all these 4 million people going there in search of something for the Holy Grail every summer, and yet everyone's hush-hush about it.
Yeah, well, they don't want Mary Magdalene to overtake Jesus, and I'm sure she was, if not as important as Jesus. Definitely. You know, she was. I mean, she was the. If it wasn't Mary Magdalene, there wouldn't have been the resurrection and all that. You know, I'm sure that was all planned. All this, you know, we've got to do it before the Passover's right.
He was only up there for 4.5 hours.
Who's the one that went and reported him? What's his name? Oh, it's completely gone. The disciple, the bad disciple.
Oh, Judas.
Judas.
But he wasn't bad.
Yeah, right, Judas.
They
right.
asked
Go
him
report
to do
me.
it.
Yes, I'm not going to be on that cross before the Pope, and I'll be up there for days. We're going to miss the time slot.
Right. And he knew he needed to go through it, otherwise he wouldn't have been the Messiah.
Exactly.
He had to go through it,
even
if he didn't want to.
Well, he was just following a set path. It was a legend, a prophecy that he had to fulfill. Even the rich man's tomb, riding in on a donkey. This was all the prophecy, and he fulfilled it to the letter.
He had to.
Yeah.
Otherwise he wouldn't have been who he was.
I mean, he's still brave though to be crucified.
Can you imagine going through that? You know, my teacher, he's from India. My guru's from India. He just left his body just a few months ago, but he told me before he died that he went to Kashmir to the tomb, and he confirmed for me, my guru is like my living Jesus. You know, if Jesus was alive today, I'd be right there by his side, you know, following him around, listening to him. He's so beautiful. And I had the great fortune of having a real master in my life. And when Gurudev went to this tomb, he said, you should know this is Jesus' tomb. And before, in India, when somebody dies, a great saint dies, they would always take a cement imprint of their feet. And in this book, you can see the photograph of Jesus' footprints from the tomb. And then Gurudev pointed out, like like right here on the foot, you can see there's a raised bump on the foot, which would have been the scar tissue from having that. And then Gurudev said that he had to wrap his feet in bandages, and he walked with a stick because he had.
He would have been crippled. Or
can you imagine? Can you imagine? So, right, book in there for me.
Oh, yeah.